um, Irish Saints and Martyrs. So this is about John Travers, and it comes from a book called Our Martyrs, written by Reverend Murphy S.J. And he was a prolific writer. And this is about Venerable John Travers, one of the martyrs as a result of Henry VIII's Reformation. Now, he's from Ireland, so this is a really interesting guy. The first of our martyrs in later times mentioned by name, for others no doubt preceded him, whose names are written only in the Book of Life, was John Travers, a native of Dublin, a priest of the Order of the Hermits of St. Augustine, and a doctor of theology. He wrote anonymously a famous work bearing the title On the Authority of the Roman Pontiff. In it, he proved clearly that the primacy of Henry VIII was a mere fiction and only a name without any foundation in fact or in reason, whereupon he was seized by the king's ministers and sent to London. He was kept in the Tower for 4 months in succession. During that time, he was examined on 4 different occasions and put to various kinds of torture. And being found faithful and steadfast, he was declared guilty of high treason by Cromwell and the other flatterers of the king. He was led out, as is the custom among the English, his hands tied behind his back, a rope around his neck, placed on a hurdle, and taken in this manner to the usual place of execution. When he reached the top of the ladder leading to the gallows, he prayed for pardon and heartily exhorted the bystanders to pray earnestly to God, the refuge of sinners, for the conversion and salvation of the king and of all the mad heretics who adhered to him. And then he exclaimed in a loud voice, "It is not for any crime, Christian hearers, that I have been sent hither from Ireland, my native country, but rather because I profess the Catholic faith, which I, like my ancestors, have drunk in with my mother's milk. And also because I am supposed to be the author of a certain work lately spread abroad among the Catholics. The moment of my death is now close at hand, which will surely open for me the door to eternal life. Hence it behoves me not to use any ambiguous or obscure language for the purpose of concealing the truth. Wherefore I declare openly that I am a priest of the Catholic and Apostolic Church, and moreover that it was with these 3 fingers, and he raised aloft the 3 fingers of his right hand." So he raised up 3 fingers like that. "I wrote that work on the authority of the Roman Pontiff. When he had said these words, the sheriff gave the order. He was hanged, cut down before life was quite extinct and quartered. A wonderful thing then took place. His right hand and his intestines were cast into the fire, and while other parts were reduced to ashes, the 3 fingers of his right hand, which he had raised aloft on the scaffold, were seen in a like position in the midst of the flames, and afterwards were found whole and fresh, as if they had never been cast into the fire, like the right hand of King Oswald, the martyr, which the Venerable Bede tells us remained up to his own time fresh and uncorrupted, in token, no doubt, of the divine approval of his charity to the poor. Harpsfield says he was assured by eyewitnesses that the flesh on the martyr's fingers remained fresh long after his death. O'Sullivan says Travers was put to death on the 30th of July, Fitzsimon on the 31st. He is one of the 261 venerable servants of God put to death in England for the faith, whose cause for beatification or declaration of martyrdom has been allowed by the decree of December 4th, 1886, to be introduced in the Sacred Congregation of Rites. So the thing about martyrs is they always withstand totalitarian bullying, and they stand up for the truth of God. So in other words, they honour the first commandment, to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with every fibre of your being. And like in the cancel culture in which we live, people are trying to stop us proclaiming the truth, and they're trying to cancel us if we stand up, even within our own families, for the truth about sexuality, morality, or for the truths of the Catholic faith. But the one thing we know for certain is that John Travers, a martyr, he's guaranteed a place in heaven. But if we deny Christ before our family or before our friends, or to just get by and compromise on the truths of the faith, we're breaking the first commandment, and then we're going to be breaking every other commandment. So we have to get back to the basics and be prepared to suffer dry persecution or red martyrdom. And like martyrdom is a continuing feature, and of course Jesus, our King, is the prototype martyr, because he was God, and yet they tried to murder him to kill the Christian faith. So we're in those sort of times again where the truth is trying to be extinguished, and we're being there's total control trying to come in all sorts of manners. And we've seen this in the last 20 years in particular, when our world has been turned upside down, topsy-turvy. And it behoves each one of us to remember that the only goal of our earthly life is to gain a place, as John Travers said there, eternal glory with God forever and ever. So it's well worth considering what the situation is and how we're going to respond as things get darker. Because we don't know, like Christian martyrdom is massive at the moment in the Middle East, in China, and we just simply don't know. But as it says there, it's recorded in the Book of Life. And so all these people that we don't know about are recorded in the Book of Life. But we've loads of examples of great martyrs to inspire us. And like this book, Our Martyrs, which is available, and I'll give the link down below, From Aid to the Church in Need. I think every household should have it, because it's well worth reflecting on what our forefathers had to endure to keep the faith alive and to pass on this wonderful gift of the Catholic faith, which is the goal of all totalitarians, to wipe it out. And of course, even within the prelates and the clergy, there's a lot of weakness, and we're afraid to stand up for the truth, because the cancel culture is so strong in media and in politics and the whole lot. But as our Irish Constitution preamble clearly outlines, we all have to answer to God, whether we're individuals or government or media or anybody else. And the one thing we should remember is that the eternal glory of God is beyond our comprehension. And so it's well worth clinging to the truth. God bless. Thank you.